could read a description of your card in my book, for example, the Love Cards book, and you would go, yeah, that fits me. Okay. But then there's 12 other birthdays, 11 other birthdays that have the same card.
Right.
How is that? How is that possible? Well, it just is. Okay. Now there is a differentiation because there's a ruling card, which adds another level, another layer. Most birthdays have a separate ruling card, which gives you another card to look at. And as I said earlier, some people identify more with the ruling card. I've ran into people. I'll tell them about their birth card. They go, I don't know if that fits me really. And then I'll tell them about the ruling card. They go, yeah, that's definitely me. So it's like we sort of choose to identify on some level with cards at different times in different amounts. You know?
Yeah.
But you know, everybody's karma, like you can have similar traits, but your karma is individual to you. Like what you came into this lifetime to learn, to work on is specifically you. Now, knowing the birth card of somebody, I can sort of forecast and sort of identify what some of the major themes will be, but the specifics of it will be unique because you have your own series of past lives and influences that you brought with you into this lifetime. Does that help?
It does. So one of the questions that my friends and I, we've been talking about this and using the books behind the scenes, of course, is the notion, in fact, I just did a talk at the Guys Fair on free will, the nature of free will, which is a very complex subject. So how do you describe free will within this when you look at the year by year layouts and say, oh my God, how can that be so precise?
Yes, it's very interesting. So, you know, I've been toying with this whole notion of free will for a long time in my own mind, and I'm finding that more and more that things we do not choose to do. We're not really consciously choosing. We think we are, but I'll give you an example. Just as the one example is like attraction. Nobody can control who they're attracted to.
Absolutely.
I could hook somebody up with the perfect person. Here you are, best cards you got. And they'll go, not interested. You know, so it's like that. I find that's true in a lot of areas that there's not really, there's more unconscious going on than there is conscious. And that's what's really driving the show. That's what's really leading the way. So you look at a person's cards and you can tell what a lot of their karma is, like what they're definitely going to have to go through and learn. Now, you can take, let's say, somebody on a given birthday, take 5 people of the same birthday. They're all going to have different degrees of the different aspects of that card. Some will have this aspect emphasized more. Some will have this other aspect emphasized more. So there's room for variety there. The issues will be there for each person, but one person will have an emphasis more on one part of it, while the other person has an emphasis on the other part of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And in fact, in your book, you wrote a comment that I thought was very appropriate. It's when you're going through life and trying to navigate, most of us, we don't come with an instruction manual. We can drive in the dark, just kind of try to feel our way around and bump into things and react. Or we can turn some headlights on and kind of get a little bit of lay of the land.
And see the bumps coming before they hit, before you get to you. Yeah.
I hope you're enjoying this video because if you are, there are dozens more like it on my site, all supported by people like you. So if you'd like to keep this work rolling in and join our community, just click on the Patreon button at reginameredith.com. That also gives you access to insider commentary, my live book club, and other live events with special guests. So join in. Thanks.
What kind of predictive work can you do with this with pretty good?
Well, yeah. Well, I can tell a person, you know, in the book, they can learn to do this themselves, of course. You can tell when there's going to be a difficult period. Now, you may not be able to tell exactly what is going to be difficult about it. I remember once I had a 9 of spades, which is considered a scary card, in the Saturn period, okay, which is the hardest period of the year. And I had never worried about a card before. For that. But then I was like, oh, what's this going to be? Because this can be a death of somebody. It can be your own death. It's considered like a really, when it's in Saturn, it's going to be an ending that you do not like. The ending of something that you definitely did not want to let go of or have end on you. And, it could be anything. So I went into the period thinking, oh, is my mom going to die, or is my dog going to die, or what, and it ended up on the first day of that period, I got a letter from the IRS. And it was all about money. It wasn't anything about, it was, what it came down to, though, as I went through the period and went through this, because it was real shocking to me that this showed up. I discovered that I had created like an image of myself where I would always have more money every month than I had the previous month, and I was attached to it and didn't even know it. And that's what I had to let go of. That's where the pain and suffering came from, was my attachment to the idea that each month I would have more money than I had the previous month. That sounds stupid. It sounds simple.
No, not really. It's part of your self-identity.
But it was big for me at the time. And once I let that go, it was done. It was over, and I still lost the money. There was money lost to the IRS. I mean, given to the IRS. You can't stop that with a 9. You can't stop that kind of stuff. It's going to happen. But I was okay with it at that point. I reached a point of where I was accepting of what was going on, and I was able to just move forward with that, knowing, and when you let go, when you have a 9 like that, when you let go, really let go internally, I'm talking about, all of a sudden you get the benefit of the 9, which is feeling like you're in exactly the right place at the right time, and that the universe is all connected and you're just right where you need to be. Everything just like looks perfect then after that. And that's what happened.
Because in the end, there is nothing we're not going to let go of. It's all going to be let go of in one way or another.
I tell clients that all the time. No one's getting out of here alive.
That's right. We all have to let go. So let's get used to it in doses.
Yeah. And even spiritual teachers, they say that, death is the final let go. And it's your final chance to wake up and be awake.
So a lot of people, of course, watching this, a high percentage of the people watching this right now are probably women, and women are vested in relationships, generally to a larger extent than a lot of men are, not always, of course. So what about relationships? Because I don't know if you still do readings for people, but I know you had developed software at one point so people could interpret the compatibilities and so forth. Is that something, by the way, is that something you still do? Or you kind of?
Oh yeah. I did a reading today, actually, earlier today.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And good. I did 5 last week, I think, or the week before last.
Oh my gosh. All right. So you're still active in this.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. So when you're looking at relationships, I will tell you, I don't think I would get involved in one without looking that up again.
I feel the same way, because when you make a mistake and then you see it there in the cards, you go, I better watch these cards next time.
Well, that's exactly how I feel about it. And it doesn't tell everything, because one thing we don't get from the cards is the level of that individual soul's spiritual development. So they can
but you can tell what the potential is. Like, you can see the potential good and bad in each card. Some cards should never get married. Some cards are unmarriageable and uncommittable, and you can know that ahead of time. Some are likely to be players constantly, and they just can't stop themselves. They try as the best they can. They just have to be a player,
Yeah, a friend of mine is just suffered a broken heart after kind of holding out for a jack.
Well, not all jacks are bad.
No, I think it was Jack of Hearts.
Jack of Hearts. Well, that's usually a pretty marriageable card.
I could be wrong on that, but it was the one that is not. It says they're a player. Which Jack?
Oh, well, that would be a Jack of Spades or a Jack of Diamonds.
Yeah,
one of those.
There you go.
Yeah.
And finally gave up.
Well, yeah. I mean, I had a reading recently with a woman, and I'm like, I said, did something bad happen back 6 months ago? Yeah. I found out he was texting some other women, and I caught him, and I'm like, and then I told her, I had his birthday. And I says, "Do you know you're dating Tiger Woods?" Same card as Tiger Woods. Do you see that? That's what you got. Okay. Now she was so attracted to him. Like there was something important there. Like I would never tell a client, "Oh, you shouldn't date somebody." I'll just tell them what this person is capable of and have them look at it, but they have to make the decision, because if you're really attracted to somebody, even if they're a horrible person for relationships, there's something important to learn there, and you have to follow your heart. I think that's my philosophy.
Yeah.
Like you have to be willing to follow your heart if you're going to learn anything about yourself, because if you really, really attract to somebody, there's something they have to teach you about yourself. Something.
I agree with that. So I would say heart first, card second, but check the card so you know what.
But the cards will show you, if you look, like if you're whoever you're most attracted to, and then you look up their card, it'll show you where you are. Like, I'll have a client that she's attracted to a completely unmarriageable guy, right? And it's obvious you're not ready for a relationship yet. That's why you picked him. He's living in Europe and you're over here in California. Obviously you don't feel like you're ready to have a relationship. Mm-hmm. So it kind of helps the client realize, where they're at in this progress. Mm-hmm. So it's really good by reflection. So I like this. You can't control who you're attracted to anyway. So I suggest my clients just look at who you are attracted to. For information about where you're at and what's coming next for you.
It is interesting because there's a particular card that I find for the people that I'm really close to and really enjoy the company of in life are all the same card. So it's very consistent. There you start seeing kind of patterns pop up of who you just feel really good around and relaxed around, or who you feel tense around. So I think it has a lot of beauty for relationships. And the same thing for career, anything having to do with financial endeavors. There are times to wait and there are times to kind of hit the pedal.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, you say it exactly like I would say it. It's this can tell you when to expand and when to slow down, or like take a break, or just cool off a little bit, because you have good money cards like the 8 of diamonds and 10 of diamonds showing up in Jupiter. That's when you should really be pushing out there with what you're offering the world, because it's going to pay off in a big way, Yeah. And then other times you might have I see some financial loss. Well, you might want to be mindful of your spending for a while, cool back a little bit, like get on a budget, something like that.
If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And you might also want to consider joining Patreon, which allows me to keep all of this content free and available to everyone. And if you're looking for like-minded souls, you might also enjoy my online community called Our Neighborhood. Links to join are in the description.